Good morning, I'm Ed Lingao. It is Monday, the 2nd of June, bringing Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Here are today's top stories. President Bongbong Marcos has put the EDSA rehab on hold, leading to the cancellation of the odd-even scheme. MMDA Chairman Romando Artes, meanwhile, says the postponement will help them develop a more effective traffic management strategy that benefits the public. The Health Department denies rumors of an mpox lockdown, clarifying that the virus does not spread through air and does not require strict restrictions. And several private schools plan to increase tuition for the years 2025 to 2026. But DepEd and CHED have not yet finalized approvals. We discuss that matter later in the program. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda, President Bongbong Marcos has suspended the planned rehab of EDSA, which was supposed to start this month. Here's the story.
Even before it could begin, the rehabilitation of EDSA is now on hold. No less than President Bongbong Marcos Jr. made the announcement himself. The rehab was initially set to start on June 13. But the president admitted that the project could heavily affect commuters, especially if the EDSA rebuilding causes severe traffic. According to the president, they will allocate 1 month first to study new technologies that could possibly speed up the rehabilitation process.
Baka naman, imbes na 2 taon, magawa natin sa 6 na buwan, magawa natin sa 1 taon, whatever it is. We will find a better way na hindi masyadong mahirap para sa ating mga commuter.
With the EDSA rehabilitation now suspended, the odd-even scheme has also been cancelled. In a statement, MMDA Chairman Attorney Romando Artes said that since the EDSA rehab is put on hold, they now have the chance to revisit the plan to make it more favorable to the public. Commuters at the MRT3 Kamuning Station were surprised when President Bongbong Marcos and the First Family appeared on Sunday. Joined by Transport Secretary Vince Dizon, the President, First Lady, and their children tried buying tickets themselves and rode the MRT train to North Avenue Station. The President and the First Family timed their ride with the launch of the Pamilya 1+3 promo today, where only 1 ticket needs to be paid even if 4 family members or friends are riding the train.
Ang kultura ng Pilipino, ang linggo, para sa pamilya yan. Para sa mga mahal sa buhay, napakahirap ng oras ng commuter. Bigyan natin ng chance naman na magsama, na hindi additional, hindi may dagdag na pagbayad para lang makasama ang inyong pamilya.
The promo will be available every Sunday until the end of President Marcos's term in 2028.
Vice President Sara Duterte says her father, former President Duterte, will not seek revenge against those responsible for his detention. She made a statement as she celebrated her 47th birthday in The Hague, the Netherlands, where her father is currently detained at the International Criminal Court. VP Sara also laughed off the appointment of Major General Nicolas Torre III as the new PNP chief, the same officer who led the former president's arrest. Meantime, she says she is preparing for her upcoming impeachment trial in the Senate and sees it as a chance to clear her name. Earlier, the upper chamber moved the presentation of articles of impeachment from today, June 2, to June 11. The Department of Justice clarifies that the deportation of former presidential spokesman Harry Roque from the Netherlands will only be possible once his asylum application has been resolved. Justice Undersecretary Raul Vasquez explains that if the asylum bid is denied, Roque could become the subject of a red notice through Interpol, potentially leading to his arrest and his deportation. He adds that the government continues to observe due process and international law while pursuing all available legal avenues to ensure accountability. Roque, along with others, is facing qualified and regular human trafficking charges linked to an alleged illegal pogo operation.
Dito sa case ng Netherlands at Pilipinas, wala tayong extradition treaty. Pero hindi ibig sabihin yan na hindi natin mapapabalik ang dating spokesperson Harry Roque. kinakansela natin ngayon nasa proseso yung cancellation of passport niya. Alam na natin na nandun siya sa Netherlands at doon na lang siya. Pag natapos ngayon yung asylum application niya, na desisyonan niya at hindi nabigyan, now magiging subject na siya ngayon ng probable application ng red notice. Arestuhin na siya at preparasyon ng deportation. Both Netherlands and the Philippines are signatory of a convention, yung tinatawag na Convention on Transnational Crime. Kasama ang trafficking in person. Itong trafficking in person, parehas na krimen sa Netherlands, krimen din dito sa atin, pasok na pasok siya doon. So, we are just waiting for the processes.
And don't go away, we will be back with more stories after this break. Good morning, I'm Ed Lingao, and here on Morning Matters, we talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind the headlines. The Health Department warns against misleading social media posts about the supposed Mpox lockdown. Here's the story.
The Department of Health has debunked social media posts claiming the government plans to impose a lockdown due to monkeypox or Mpox. The DOH clarified that Mpox is not airborne and does not require a lockdown.
No plan to do lockdown. Magdi-declare muna kami ng outbreak if there is really, but there's no outbreak. No, number two, ang lockdown ay very extreme. We used it during the pandemic. So Mpox has to become a pandemic. It's not.
In May, over 50 suspected, probable, and confirmed Mpox cases were reported. However, the DOH explained that this increase in reports stems from delayed disclosures by local governments, not a sudden surge in infections.
Yung ng mga nare-report na mga cases of Mpox ng mga ibang LGU, actually many weeks ago pa yon.
There were also reports of deaths, but health officials confirmed these were not directly caused by Mpox.
Namatay sila from advanced HIV. So nagkataon. So yung mga nakikuha naming Mpox, because the risky behavior is the same, nagre-recommend kami magpa-HIV test din.
From January 1, 2024 to May 29, 2025, the Philippines recorded 911 Mpox cases, all involving the milder clade 2 strain. The DOH assures the public that a dedicated task force is actively monitoring the situation to prevent the entry of the more dangerous clade 1B strain.
Wala pong ganun sa Pilipinas kahit last year. So walang dapat ikatakot.
And to talk more about the Mpox virus, we are joined by infectious disease expert Dr. Ronjin Solante. Doc, good morning and welcome back.
Hi Ed, good morning.
Morning, sir. Thank you for joining us this morning. Well, sir, we did hear kanina si Secretary Harbosa saying na there's no need for a lockdown. You have all of these social media posts going around that are obviously fake. But at the same time, he's also mentioning that there's also some risky behavior that also has to be avoided. Could you start off with that? What are we talking about here when you talk about risky behavior?
Yes, Ed, no, just to recapitulate, Ed, no, itong MPAX natin ngayon, nag-clade 2, this is still the MPAX that is circulating during 2022 when the WHO declared this public health emergency. Ito yung mpox na primarily transmitted because of intimate sexual contact. So hindi po ito yung cause, ito yung hindi yung 1A na medyo mataas ang rate sa mga bata, no? And that's why it's not commonly transmitted in other mode of transmission kagaya ng respiratory or droplet. It's really more on uh, kissing, hugging, and other means of intimate sexual contact.
So we're talking here about skin to skin. Airborne is not even anywhere in the equation.
There is still one of that possibility, especially for when you have intimate contact din naman. You can also, you speak, you also exchange air during the time you do it together with your partner. Na rin yun. Kasi alam mo Ed, madalas ang nakikita naming mpox ngayon, ang mga lesions are usually concentrated in the mucosal area, sa mouth, sa nose, and then dito sa mga genital area and anal area. Not much of the yung generalized na makikita natin na talagang kalat, no? Kalat. So hindi ganun kalat.
Yes, sir. Doc, if you don't mind, a bit of the basics here, kasi for those not familiar, when you say monkeypox or mpox, parang nakakatakot pakinggan. Broad strokes. What exactly is it? I know it's viral, and a lot of it is skin-to-skin contact, among other things, of course. Pero what exactly is it, and what does it do?
Yes, correct, Ed. No, matatakot pa rin tayo because at the start, yung virus na yan, it will only affect the mucosal area and the skin, no? May lagnat, konting sakit sa ulo. But after 5 to 7 days, especially among those mga bata, mga immunocompromised, it will really lead to a systemic complications kagaya ng involvement of the brain, lungs, including the liver, no? So a lot of times when this patient will have involvement sa mga ganong klaseng masela na parte ng organs natin, that will really be causing them more severe type of mpox. And that's why the clade 1 has a case fatality rate of more than 50%. Clade 2 is only like 10 to 15%. At nakikita natin dito, yung mga immunocompromised talaga ang medyo madadali dito because of the mababa yung immune response.
Pero Doc, we're not looking at anything anywhere in the vicinity of what we saw 3 years ago, yung COVID lockdown. Like we're not talking, of course, about masks or anything like that.
No, we don't. No, because the transmission rate here is very slow, unlike yung respiratory virus kagaya ng COVID or even influenza na in just a few minutes when you are in a room, the same room without wearing a face mask, you can get it, no? Ito, Ed, is really droplet, no? Droplet, ibig sabihin, pag nagsalita ka, then lumalabas yung may konting droplet, usually within 3 feet ang transmission nito. And it will take really longer longer exposure for you to get it. Unlike COVID, where in a few minutes, you get the infection.
Pero Doc, what do you think accounts for ito mga lumalabas na social media posts about lockdowns and masking? Why are people spreading these things? Where are they getting these suspicions and these fears?
Yes, I think it still emanate from our experience with the fact that na meron tayong tinatawag na public health emergency, nakita nila to. So I think that is related with outbreak and such things as viral infection. Siguro nakakorrelate nila, no? But we need to correct that because it will really create more panic, and in fact may mga nag-panic buying ng hoarding ng mga face mask, no? Hindi po. Uh, Mpox is totally different with COVID, and kailangan natin mabigyan ng tamang information na this is not primarily transmitted through respiratory or airborne or with cough or anything to do with respiratory transmission.
Okay. Doc, medyo himayin ko lang po kasi ang bagit nga ninyo kanina, this is not really airborne. However, this could be spread through droplets under certain circumstances. Pwede hong pakihimay ng konti yon para mas muli na po sa mga nakikinig. Kasi siyempre, for the general public kasi, airborne and droplets, medyo, it's a gray area eh. They do sound the same.
Yes. Pag sinasabing airborne, no, konting lang, ubo, tapos yung virus will stay in the air for longer period of time.
Okay.
Kaya
Okay.
wala kang face mask, nandun ka sa isang room, mahanggap mo yon, mahawaan ka. When you say droplet, kailangan mo ng ubo. Umubo dapat ang carrier ng virus na to, tapos you're within 3 feet, tapos yung saliva or anything droplet galing from the violent cough or yung sa pag-sneeze, then you get that when you don't wear a mask. Ang Mpox, rarely they present with respiratory. So, ibig sabihin, Ed, you cannot get it because wala namang droplet, hindi naman, and the lesions are the ones that is highly infectious. Pag lumalabas na yung mga lesions sa paa, sa kamay, dito sa mga bibig or sa chest area, that means the patient is already highly infectious, and that's the reason why they have to be isolated because that particular breast skin lesion, kung meron kang sugat na medyo open wound din, then matamaan yun, pwede rin mahawaan ka.
Kumbaga, mabugahan ka.
Yes.
Versus nasa isang kwarto lang kayo, nasa elevator lang kayo, tapos may humihinga o may umuubo sa kamay niya versus yon. Di ba? Medyo
Yes.
malaking kaibahan kasi yun eh.
So, ibig sabihin, wag tayong halimbawa, meron kang let's say Mpox, kasama mo sa elevator, tapos hindi naman siya umubo, humihinga lang ng normal. Hindi nakakahawa yan. Maski sabihin mong nandun kayo sa isang elevator. Now, if that patient will really cough and coughing is violent and within 3 feet ka, wala kang then there's a small possibility that you can get it. But again, that's not so much, unlike with COVID-19.
Tapos Doc, when you talk about lesions, kasi lesions of course is more of a medical term than anything. When you talk about lesions, basically itong mga sugat o mga breaks sa skin.
Sugat, sa skin, no? Yung sugat nun parang smallpox or chicken pox, no? Yung varicella, yung parang bulutong tubig, makita mo yan. Tapos they dried up and then they become necrotic, nangingitim, namumula, nangingitim, and that's so painful. Talagang we need to inform that anyone who has history of intimate sexual contact, lumalabas itong mga rashes, magpasuri na agad.
Okay. Doc, tapos my understanding, tell me if I'm getting this right, the deadlier strain of Mpox is not in the Philippines yet. What we're seeing here is the more, the less deadly strain, if I'm getting that right.
Yes, yung deadlier strain nito, Ed, is the clade 1B, no? Yung 1B. Our strain that we are currently circulating in the Philippines is the clade 2. So this is the less virulent, the more milder presentation, and mabilis makontrol to dahil yun nga, you just have to isolate the patient, and a lot of times patient will just recover also.
Any deaths out of Mpox is more likely to be because of complications. Is that correct? It is not entirely because of Mpox itself.
Yes. In fact, Ed, ang mga reported death nito are those patients who have HIV with severe immunocompromised state na. No? Ibig sabihin, meron na napaka-severe na rin yung HIV nila. Tapos dagdagan mo pa ng Mpox, then mas na-doble na yung severity ng state nila kasi the more na marami kang infection, mas bababa yung immune system. And that's why mga HIV natin na may Mpox, sila yung priority natin when we will be giving treatment, yung antiviral natin, tecovirimat.
Doc, are there any particular groups that are more vulnerable to Mpox infection than others, or than the general public?
So far, ang na-identify na mga case na na-encounter natin are really the persons who have sexual intimate contact with multiple partners.
Mhm, mhm. That's because of the skin-to-skin contact nga. And of course, yung the droplet transmission.
Yes, but we need to also include the information that if these people will also be living in the same house with pregnant, with
Mhm.
children less than 2 years old, and those elderly, so halimbawa, they should also be very careful kasi pwede rin nilang mahawaan sa tagal nilang nakipag-sama din sa isang bahay.
Okay, Doc, for a public that's more fearful of what it doesn't know than what it does know, what would you tell the public as to how to guard against Mpox? Kumbaga, in general terms, in broad strokes, anong kailangang iwasan ng taong bayan? Anong kailangan nilang bantayan? Anong kailangan nilang matyagan para malaman, para iwasan, para malaman kung meron siya o wala?
Yes, for the general public, this is something that we don't need to panic, no, because the transmission is not just like COVID na pag-ubo or yung airborne or yung respiratory, no. For those who are high risk, siguro we need to focus on this. Yung high risk na mga of getting the mpox, pag meron the moment that you will have symptoms of like the skin lesion, the sores, no, yung mga lumalabas sa balat natin, and you know that you are a high-risk population having multiple contacts, punta na kayo kaagad sa, pasuri na kaagad sa mga doktor para to diagnose it and confirm if it's mpox. And we need to do that because we have to do contact tracing also sa mga
Oh.
nakasalamuhan nito,
Mm.
contact, para lang control natin ang spread.
Mhm, mhm. Okay. Tapos, Doc, looking at the numbers, I'm also reading that we may have had even more mpox infections last year compared to this year. So it's not necessarily as bad as it sounds, at least superficially.
Yes, it's something na expected to kasi we know the population at high risk here are really highly vulnerable, no? So, expected na talagang we will be seeing cases but not cases that will really be so alarming, ma-overwhelm tayo.
Mhm. Wala pa hong bakuna to?
Meron na may mga bakuna na to in other countries like US and Europe. These are already being given to those. Ang bakuna din nito ay binibigay lang doon sa targeted population high risk of
Mhm,
getting it.
mhm,
So,
mhm.
but not for the general public or the general population.
Yeah, I suppose we're not yet naman at that stage where we need to have vaccinations of mpox, not particularly for the general public.
Not for the general public, but I highly recommend kung meron mang available na bakuna doon sa mga high risk population.
Okay, Doc. I guess that's it. So no reason to be concerned or afraid, no? Just take the normal precautions at umiwas sa mga bumabahin ng malakas. Cover your mouth, I guess. Maraming salamat, Dr. Ronjin Solante, infectious disease expert. Thank you for joining Morning Matters, sir.
Thank you.
The DOH sounds the alarm over the rising number of Filipino youth using vape or e-cigarettes. This comes after the Global Tobacco Survey reveals that vape usage among Filipino teens jumped from 11% in 2015 to nearly 25% in in the succeeding years. In 2019, that's 1 out of every 4. DOH Secretary Ted Herbosa says these products, often sold online, contain flavored chemicals that can damage the lungs and lead to serious diseases. He warns that vape is not a safe alternative to cigarettes and can cause cancer, heart attacks, and even death. With this, Herbosa is supporting higher taxes on tobacco products and a total ban on vape in the country.
Bilangin mo years later, ang daming may cancer, ang daming may heart attack, ang daming may oral cancer and all that stuff. Pwede kang mamatay dahil dyan sa vape na yan, lalo na kung bata sila.
Please stay tuned. Morning Matters will be back after a short break. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here in One News. Several private schools will raise tuition for the 2025 to 2026 school year. According to the Coordinating Council of Private Educational Associations, or COCOPEA, the increase is needed to cover higher salaries for teachers and school staff. The tuition hike is expected to be in line with the current inflation rate. The Department of Education and Commission on Higher Education have yet to finalize which schools can implement the increases. And to discuss the increase of tuition in private schools, we have COCOPEA Legal Counsel Attorney Joseph Noel Estrada. Sir, good morning and welcome to Morning Matters, Attorney.
Good morning, Ed, and good morning to all of your viewers and listeners.
Well, thank you for joining us. Attorney, to begin with, ano po, when we're talking about the tuition hike here, ano po yung average na nakikita natin dito? And how much of it has been approved?
Well, when we talk about tuition increase in the private schools, it's basically controlled by inflation. That's number one, and of course the market that each individual school is catered. So the range of increase, I would say around 3% or even lower in some areas, up to as high as 5% to 7%.
Attorney, I was reading up a bit on this. I understand there are several laws that govern the increases in tuition, RA 6728 and Batas Pambansa 232. Am I getting it right na, the schools actually have the authority to increase on their own so long as there's a green light from DepEd and CHED?
It's the right to determine the fees belong to the private educational institution. So they determine the rate, but subject to compliance with regulations of the DepEd and CHED before it is collectible. So then as provided in RA 6728, these are the administrative requirements. So first is that the incremental proceeds collected by the private schools should be allocated where 70% goes to
70%.
salaries of personnel and 20% goes to facilities.
And so that leaves 10% for the school itself.
For the school itself, or it can add to those other needs of the school. Like for example, 20% for sure will not be enough for improvement of facilities. So usually doon po kinukuha yun.
As you said po, kailangan ng approval, I suppose, in the end, ng DepEd or ng CHED. Do we have already the numbers as to how many schools have been approved, I mean, at least their applications for increases or adjustments?
Right now, wala pa po. We're also waiting for it. Yung pong kadalasan ng deadline is May, first week or second week of May. So anytime the CHED and DepEd will release the results of the applications. Regional po kasi ang application yan. So, but the target, of course, is before the opening of the classes.
The opening of classes po is middle of June already. Is that right? Kasi I've been out of school for a long time already. So I just found out lang pala just a few hours ago na nag-revert na pala to June ng school opening.
Yes, bumalik na po doon ng ang public schools. So marami din pong bumalik na rin doon sa dating opening natin na around June. So sumusunod po sa public schools, hindi masyadong lumalayo doon ng mga private schools. So some are opening in June. Some are opening also in July. But most of the colleges and universities, I think they're opening in July.
But more or less, it's back to June to March, at least in that vicinity, versus yung dating August to May. I think this was in 2014. What explains, sir, the reversion? I mean, I remember kasi in 2014, parang this was a big discussion. There were a lot of people opposing it to begin with. And then natuloy, and then yung pala babalik lang tayo.
Maraming factors. Number one, yung sumusunod nga tayo sa public schools. Hindi pwedeng masyadong malayo yung opening ng public schools sa private schools kasi syempre we also need to align. We have to make sure mobility of students also. So, halimbawa, pag natapos ang isang school year, kung lilipat sa public schools or vice versa, of course, dapat yung school malayo. But I think marami rin kaming naririnig na dahilan. Like for example, pag umaabot na yung school year ng summer, no, yung dating summer break natin, napakainit, di ba? Napansin natin, napakaraming suspension of classes also because of the heat index. And many schools don't want that anymore. No? Of course, we'll have to deal again with rainy season. Pero ngayon,
Yeah.
bagyo ay wala nang pinipili. Dati, June at July lang ngayon, even in September, di ba? Bumabagyo pa rin. So, mga ganong factors ang tinitingnan.
In fact, attorney, if I recall correctly, yung mga 2014 time, ano yun part of the discussion was the need to move the opening the school year dahil sa dami ng bagyo, puro cancellation ng classes. So there were too many absences by the kids. That was the logic in 2014. But it turns out pala na when they moved it to summer, dumami naman ng absences dahil puro heat wave.
Tama yun, Ed. And in different parts of the country, magkakaiba din yung rainy season or yung time na binibisita sila ng bagyo. No? So talagang hindi natin magawang uniform for all regions and for all schools. Yung iba binibisita ng bagyo outside of NCR, mga September or October na no? So wala, hindi mo talaga, you cannot have one to address all of these issues for suspension of classes. But again, we're moving back to the June opening of classes, June to March school year.
So 2014 was basically a mistake, I suppose. Would that be fair to say now?
Hindi naman siguro a mistake, but well, again, we defer to our education agencies. Of course, may mga kanya-kanyang kino-consider din factors based on their own stakeholders and localities. Maraming issues that schools have to deal with.
I can imagine, especially with the climate going haywire. Tapos I also understand with the kids going to school during the summer months, at least with the previous schedule or the previously new schedule, tumataas ng costs because of air conditioning dahil mainit.
Tumataas ang cost dahil mataas ang kuryente. So we'll have to deal with that. So hopefully, maiwasan na yon by going back to the old school calendar.
Well, so you're fine with the old school calendar. I mean, I suppose this is the lesser evil, if you might call it that.
Yeah, we're most of our members are okay with the old school calendar. Kasi pag inabot ka din ng mga holidays, mga bare months, no, marami na ring disruptions. Students also don't nagbabakasyon na yung ibang pamilya for the Christmas break.
Holiday mode.
Exam pa yung iba, may problema pa sa exam. So yun ang iniiwasan din. Yung maraming disruptions because of our regular and special holidays, and in addition to the weather conditions.
Tapos, sir, last na lang, if I may, what's the news with regard to enrollment in private schools? Kasi I do remember a few years ago there was a shift between public and private school enrollment because of the increasing costs. I'm wondering how it is right now. How have the trends moved?
Well, it continues to decline in terms of enrollment, but we're picking up naman. We're improving the numbers compared to the pandemic. As you may well know, many of the schools, private schools, have stopped their operations because of the lack of enrollment during the pandemic. But we're picking up, but I would say still steady decline because of the cost for families, inflation, all of these factors. And of course, many of them go to the public school system because it is.
But we're nowhere near the pre-pandemic levels. I mean, in terms of the number of private schools that are open, hindi pa tayo bumabalik dun sa dati.
Hindi pa, medyo malayo pa.
Malayo pa.
Tayo. Yes.
In broad strokes, attorney, how big was it how big was the cut in the number of schools?
Yung kung number of schools, kasi pre-pandemic nasa 13,000 yan. Actually conservative pa yung 13,000, but now you only have 9,000 private schools all over the country. Mga nasa a little over 2 million enrollment sa basic ed, and more than 1 million in colleges and universities. Pre-pandemic, nasa 3 million mahigit na yung enrollment sa basic ed and around 2 million sa colleges and university. So, medyo malayo pa tayo sa pre-pandemic numbers.
We had pala 13,000 private schools before pandemic. And I didn't know we had that many private schools.
Dati 16,000 yun ang sinasabi, but yung iba doon na double count. So I would say mga nasa 13,000 plus yun before the pandemic. Now it's just 9,000 according
9,000. So may 4,000 pa rin nasarado since the pandemic, and they have not reopened. Are these likely to stay closed? Tuloy-tuloy na to or ano? Or
Some of them closed some of the programs, but they continue with other programs. Like for example, they closed elementary, they continue with senior high, or some just retain the senior high school program. And some totally closed all of their programs. Yung iba
Okay.
paasa na magkaroon ng expansion ng subsidy sa elementary. Malaking bagay po yun because the bulk of enrollment really is in elementary.
Okay. Cocopia Legal Counsel Attorney Joseph Noel Asada, sir, thank you for joining us this morning.
Maraming salamat.
Defense Secretary Gilbert Teodoro and Armed Forces Chief General Romeo Bronner Jr. have called out alleged Chinese media for spreading misleading reports. Speaking at the Defense Summit in Singapore, Teodoro reveals that people posing as journalists accuse the Philippines of being a U.S. proxy, a claim that he strongly denies. He alleges that the so-called reporters were in fact Chinese intelligence agents using media credentials to distort footage and manipulate public perception. The armed forces also condemned these people for reportedly violating protocol and tailing General Bronner outside official summit activities. China continues to reject the 2016 arbitral ruling that invalidated its sweeping claims in the West Philippine Sea. Please stay tuned. We will be right back.
At hindi ako nag-iisa. I stand shoulder to shoulder with the over 220,000 strong and dedicated men and women of the Philippine National Police, each one entrusted with upholding the dignity and honor that our badge represents. As your Chief of the Philippine National Police, in addition and in continuation of the legacy of General Marbil, I will lead with three core pillars. Pillar number one is in compliance to the directive of the President for swift and responsive public service. We will institutionalize a 3-minute emergency response time in major urban centers, and this had been done already during my term in Quezon City in the 3-minute response time project. This is not just a benchmark, it is a lifeline. Every call for help deserves immediate attention and action. We will be present. Makikita nyo kami sa kalsada, sa komunidad, sa palengke at sa bawat lugar na kinakailangan ng ating presensya para magbigay ng kapanatagan at ng kalooban. Kung nasaan man ang bawat Pilipino, sila ay ligtas. To support this, we must ensure pillar number two, unity and morale within the ranks. A divided force cannot defend a nation. Thus, we will strengthen our core from within, guided by discipline, mutual respect, and leadership by example. To our men and women in uniform, we expect the best from you in protecting others. With this expectation, we will also give you the best training, best leadership, best support, and the best opportunity to grow in this institution. Because those who are asked to give all also deserve nothing less in return. Pillar number 3, accountability and modernization. In support of the President's reform agenda and of key pillar number 1 on swift and responsive public service, we will modernize our systems, enhance our investigative tools, and adopt innovative technologies that protect rights while ensuring order. In support of these 3 pillars, I give you these 3 promises. Una, sa buong kapulisan, nandito ako at ako ay lagi niyong kasama. Sabay nating harapin ang lahat ng hamon ng ating organisasyon at sabay nating pangalagaan at itaas ang dangal ng ating uniforme. But I will ask something from you in return of this promise. Sa ilalim ng aking pamumuno, action will be rewarded. Hindi sapat ang pogi points. We will reward those policemen who will work hard on our 3 pillars. Respond to public swiftly, unite and uplift the morale of your fellow public servants, and hold yourself and others within the ranks accountable. Real talk lamang. No need for endorsements under my leadership. Appointments will be based solely on merit, and only the most competent will be entrusted with the right positions in the right places. Deliver excellence in your police work. File affidavits, execute warrants, bring criminals to justice, raise your hands in front of judges and fiscals, and provide evidence against these criminals to support their conviction, and you will be recognized and rewarded. Of course, I have to reiterate that all of these actions must be done within the ambit of the law, evidence-based, and rights-respecting. I challenge each and every member of the PNP to be louder than me, not only in words, but also in action. When you're doing extraordinary things for the people, you deserve to be heard and recognized. Mag-ubanta sa pagserbisyo nga matinud-anon. Magbinuligay kita sa aton ginahandom nga kalinong sa aton nga nasyon. Agtitinulong tayo amang salaknib iti panggilan tayo. Sama-sama nating iangat ang watawat ng isang malinis at tapat na pambansang kapulisyan. Pangalawa, to our foreign guests and residents, we are happy that you have chosen the Philippines to be your second home. I promise that all of our laws apply equally to all, regardless of nationality. We are committed to upholding everyone's right, safety, dignity, including yours. Pangatlo, para sa bawat Pilipino, sa ilalim ng aking pamumuno, ang batas ay patas, ang serbisyo ay mabilis, at ang kapulisyahan ay karapat-dapat ng inyong tiwala. Hindi nyo na kailangan pang pumunta sa kung saan-saan at hindi namin kayo pagpapasapasahan at ang PNP na lamang ang inyong maging sumbungan ng inyong mga hinaing, lalong-lalo na ng paglabag ng inyong karapatang pantao. Tulungan nyo kaming tulungan kayo. We acknowledge your active partnership in creating the bagong Pilipinas we all dream of at buong puso kaming nagpapasalamat. Huwag kayong bibitaw at manatili sana kayong katuwang sa pagtaguyod ng kapayapaan at kaayusan ng ating bayan. We will strengthen our partnerships with the public so we can better understand local needs and respond to them with empathy and precision. Today marks more than a beginning. It is a defining moment. Thus, let us seize it with unwavering courage, grounded in humility and a relentless commitment to serve the Filipino people with honor, excellence, and integrity. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay ang pambansang pulisya, mabuhay ang bagong Pilipinas, mabuhay ang sambayanang Pilipino, at sa bagong Pilipinas, ang gusto ng pulis, ligtas ka! Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much and congratulations, Police General Nicolas Torre III.
An ambitious promise from incoming PNP Chief Nicolas Torre III, 3-minute response time for police officers for any person who is in trouble, and uniting the police forces and improving morale within the ranks. You're still watching Morning Matters here in One News. For the details of that story, we have mobile journalist Julie Baiza, who's covering right now there in, I think, Campo Crame. Julie, kamusta dyan?
Yes, Doc Ed, ongoing ang change of command ceremony ng Philippine National Police dito sa Campo, Quezon City. Pinangunahan ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos yung pagtitipon at opisyal na pagtalaga kay Police General Nicolas Torre III bilang 31st Chief ng PNP. Kasabayan ng retirement ceremony ni PNP Chief Police General Romel Francisco Marbil. Kanina, Doc Ed, nauna na magsalita si Marbil kung saan ipinagmalaki niya na natupad niya yung pangakong matatag at maayos na pulisya. Sa 14 na buwang pamumuno daw sa PNP, nalinis niya yung kanyang hanay sa pamamagitan ng internal discipline. Binanggit din niya yung pagkakadakip kina Pastor Apollo Kibuloy at Dismiss Bamban Mayor Alice Go. Patunay daw yan na walang sino mang nakakaangat sa batas. Bukod sa mga yan, highlight din daw na naging pamumuno ni Marbil yung papayapang pagsasagawa ng midterm elections. Katatapos-tapos nga lang naman yung talumpati ni General Torre kung saan nga po siya sa publiko na ipagpapatuloy nga yung pagtitiyak ng kaligtasan, police visibility at makikita daw yung puwersa sa buong komunidad. Magsisilbi rin daw gabay ng pamumuno niya yung unity at moral sa kanilang hanay at maging yung accountability at modernization. Pinangako naman niya na lagi niyang makakasama yung buong pambansang pulisya at action will be rewarded. Mabibigyan daw ng reward yung mga tutulong sa pagpapahuli ng mga kriminal at kung gumagawa daw ng extraordinary for the people, deserve naman daw na ma-recognize ng buong pulisya. No? Doc EDSA ngayon nagsasalita si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. Inaabangan natin ano yung magiging marching order ng Pangulo para sa bagong PNP Chief. Sa ngayon kasi nagpapasalamat siya sa naging serbisyo kay General Marbil. Doc Ed.
Okay. Julie, hindi ko lang alam kung nababanggit yan o kung meron nagre-respond yan. Pero kasi ang kritisismo ng pamilya Duterte, ang bilis daw ng pag-akyat ni General Torre from the ranks. I think in the last year, tumalon siya ng 2 ranggo at ngayon naging PNP chief. I am wondering lang kung nag-respond sila doon sa allegation na yon ng mga Duterte.
Sa ngayon, okay, hindi pa namin nakakausap yung PNP chief kasi pagdating diretso sila sa seremonya. No? Pero kung maaalala, yung palasyo may naging sagot naman siya na hindi naman daw reward. Kumbaga yung itong action na, no? It's motion of course, pero hindi naman daw to reward doon sa mga, of course, pangunguna sa pagpapahuli kaya former President Duterte at ang sabi nga ni ES Bersamin, kung may nagawa naman daw na mabuti daw na mainam at talaga naman daw kikilalanin ng Pangulo. Pero ano man daw yung naging utos naman ng Pangulo sa sino mang opisyal, inaasahan naman daw talaga na gagawin niya ng mabuti nung said official.
Although, well, to be fair, medyo curious yung kasing allegation ng mga Dutertes dahil yun yung nangyari sa kaso ni Bato de la Rosa nung itinaga siyang PNP chief ni dating Pangulong Duterte. He was then chief superintendent o 1-star general at tumalon siya at naging 4-star general. Ang nilaktawan niya, I think, is mga 19 na 2 stars. But anyway, that's also in the past. But yun nga, merong he said, she said.
I think with Torre, 2-star general siya before. And then natapos nga lang doon donning of rank. So,
yeah, kakapromote lang. So actually, di sila nagkakalayo. Di sila nagkakalayo ni Bato. But anyway,
yes,
sige.
And siguro isa pang, yes, go.
Good. Nabanggit ka lang kanina kasi parang narinig ko si Torres saying na may pangako siya ng 3-minute response time. Did he go into details there?
Yes, ang sabi niya, pabibilisin daw nila yung pag-action kasabay daw ng modernization ng PNP. Ang sabi nga niya, gusto niya maging sumbungan ng hinaing yung PNP at hindi na dumaan sa kung sino-sino pa. So mabilis na serbisyo daw at hindi pagpapasa-pasahan yung mga nagre-reklamo or nagko-complain, nagka-file ng complaint.
Kasi in 3 minutes response time, well, that's a wonderful number, pero that's pretty ambitious kasi yung pagsagot pala ng telepono in 3 minutes.
Pero kasi Bok, di ba meron ng other police units na yun yung ginagawa. According to them, sa ngayon na 3 minutes response time kada merong tumawag sa isang emergency hotline.
Okay. Well, we shall find out how they are able to accomplish that number. Maraming salamat sa iyo, mobile journalist Julie Baisa. Thank you for joining us this morning. Transportation Secretary Vince Dizon held a press conference on the suspension of the EDSA rehab project. And for more updates, we have mobile journalist Arles de los Santos. Arles, so ano finally ang napag-usapan sa press con?
Magandang umaga, Bok. No? Kahapon, Linggo ay kinansela na nga ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. ang rehabilitation ng EDSA na dapat ay magsisimula nitong June 13. Kaya naman ngayong araw dito sa opisina mismo ng DOTR ay nagsagawa ng press conference si DOTR Secretary Vince Dizon. Ayon sa kanya ay layo ng Pangulo na mas humanap ng mga paraan para mas makatulong sa mga commuter. No? Ito daw ay salamin ng pakikinig ng gobyerno dahil daw sa ambanga naman na mas mabigat na trapiko at mas masusubok ang ating mga commuter sa araw-araw nilang pagpunta sa kanilang mga trabaho. Originally, Bok, ang halaga ng rebuild ng EDSA ay nasa 8.7 billion pesos daw, no, ayon kay Secretary Dizon, pero maaari daw itong umabot ng hanggang 15 billion pesos. Tinanong din natin sa kanya kung patuloy ba ang kanilang ugnayan sa DPWH, lalo pa at DPWH ang mangunguna, no, sa rehabilitasyon sa mismong pagpapalit ng mga asfalto at pagdadagdag ng mga sidewalks at pag-aayos ng mga signages, pero medyo naging matipid ang pahayag dyan ni Secretary Dizon. Bok?
Okay, maraming salamat Mojo Arles de los Santos mula sa DOTR. And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you just the right start for your morning. We make the day matter. I'm Ed Lingao. We are One News, all sides, all the time.